Hello. In this clip from our Justia webinar, How AI Impacts Small and Solo Law Firms, exploring the potential benefits and risks of incorporating AI into practice, Thomas Schack discusses the risks that law firms may face when relying too much on AI. If you want to see more Justia videos on law practice and legal marketing, be sure to subscribe to our channel.
So if you rely too heavily on AI, and, today I'm not going to, we are going to pick on, one firm. But the fact is that, you have to be aware of what happens if you don't do your job. Your job is to make sure that, that you're meeting the rules of professional conduct, which again, we're going to review as they relate to, AI, particularly for small firms. But there are some really big issues that you can run into. All right. So first of all, you don't want to surrender critical thinking skills to the AI system, and the reason is because it's not that all the information that you're going to be rationalizing or analyzing is going to be, and the AI system is going to get it wrong. The problem that I see with it personally is that you can become too reliant upon it, and when it does make a mistake, it's like having a stick of dynamite in the middle of your case. So you really want to be cautious and always double checking as it relates to anything that's again, drafting, putting things, sifting through materials and making briefing arguments, all those things you're very, very careful with. All right, legal and regulatory requirements. There are always going to be issues with relying upon AI and our rules of professional conduct, and the penalties for noncompliance for us as attorneys is pretty significant. Again, as we're going to cover, very soon. So another practice tip: while AI has the potential to improve the efficiency and accuracy of legal services, it's important for attorneys to understand the risks associated with using AI in legal practice. So here are some kind of examples of mistakes that happen within AI output as of today, right? As of, for the past year, we've been doing this specific analysis. And I always put in parentheses, you on all of them, because you do, right? This is our firm. This is your firm. This is your name, your reputation. And so if you make a mistake and you're careless, you will undoubtedly suffer. And obviously, we don't want that. So first of all, the misinformation in legal briefing, there are examples, again, that we're going to talk about, of where a lawyer has relied upon generative and generated research for a legal brief. And so again, that's utilizing ChatGPT to do, legal research. Very, very bad idea because it makes mistakes. It causes errors. It makes things up, which we'll talk about. The mistaken legal precedent. It might present a case with a similar name or close factual situation to the current one, but with a different legal outcome. So I'll give you an example here in Massachusetts, right? So if you were to search, one of the larger AI closed systems, you would for the most part end up with cases that at least you can go through and make a determination of whether it would be helpful or not helpful to your case. But the problem, with that is that the AI still is not there yet. So, for instance, if you were looking for a standard of review on a particular criminal appeal here in Massachusetts, and you were to search it, you might get great information back again, but after doing just a little bit extra research, you realize that it's talking about, that the system is talking about a case that's quite unrelated to yours. And, for instance, it might be in our case in Massachusetts, it might be a murder case. So we have something called a 33E standard. of review for the Supreme Judicial Court on murder cases. So we don't want, we obviously, if we're working on a district court appeal or something that's something that's minor, comparatively, then you're almost likely to end up with a difficult situation, because 33E, for instance, is not the standard that you would use for an OUI or operating under the influence case, or DWI for some of you, or DUI for some of you. So just keep that in mind, right? Mistaken legal precedent. And then also it can miss crucial evidence. So it's extensive, but it can also, because it's not truly rationalizing, you got to remember what the system is doing. The system is simply predicting what should come next, right? So if it's writing a brief for you or a draft, it's predicting what should be there. And again, the concept of garbage in, garbage out is really important here. You don't want to be in a situation where you miss something and your reliance on AI could create an improper vision of the legal landscape. In practice tip, just imagine the humiliation and the consequences. I mean, look, it's very hard to discuss these things sometimes, but in the context of this presentation, I think it's very, very important. Because this is the wild, wild west still, you are, if you make any of these mistakes, if you don't do the work, and if you don't do your job as an attorney, then you're really, really setting yourself up both for humiliation and consequences. The humiliation of everybody in the legal practice, and I'm sure that just about everybody who's on this webinar today has seen a firm or two who've gotten into a significant amount of trouble. Well, we're going to talk about that. So the question you always want to be asking yourself is, what could go wrong? And the first thing is that AI can create what's called AI hallucinations. It's an actual thing. And here's one example. I'm not going to use the name of the firm, but the fact is last June, 2 lawyers in a law firm filed a claim that included citations to fictitious legal cases generated by AI tool ChatGPT. So this was actually a more senior level partner who gave the assignment to a more junior level lawyer, and the junior level lawyer utilized the ChatGPT and it made up a host of different cases. That brief then went to the senior attorney for review, and it was approved and ultimately filed. So, because of that faith of the mistaken faith in the AI generated information, the judge in that particular case, I think it was an aviation case, ruled that the lawyers and the firm acted in bad faith. Right, two really, really, really bad words that you never want to hear as a lawyer. And I mean, a court saying that you've acted in bad faith, but not properly responding to the court's inquiries regarding the fabricated citation. So, so part of this is the come clean aspect of it. If you do make a mistake, the last thing you want to try to do is cover it up. And the reason is because that's where you get into the bad faith situation. I mean, you may have created the mistake or the mistaken document or the citations, inadvertently. But once somebody points it out to you, your job is to make sure that you take responsibility, because otherwise you're going to get crushed. In this case, the judge fined the 2 lawyers in a law firm $5,000 for incorporating fabricated legal research into an aviation injury claim. So, I mean, look, I don't want to have to ever pay a fine as a lawyer. I don't want to ever have to explain to my client why I have to pay a $5,000 fine, or why my firm has been fined. And I'll just say this about that. That is still one of the preeminent examples on the internet of where things can go wrong, right? So So just keep that in mind. That that you do not want to be that that poster child. You don't want to be the person who's or the firm, particularly. I mean, not that it's any any better or truly worse. As a small or solo operator, it's really a big issue, right? Because it can literally put you out of business like that. And very important to understand that. So first of all, when the system does fabricate case law, they're often searching vast legal databases, but occasionally they actually will create an entirely fictional case that sounds plausible. That's actually what happened in the ChatGPT case. It wasn't like obviously they didn't do the work, right? Obviously it's res ipsa loquitur, it speaks for itself. But the fact of the matter is that even in substantial systems, and those systems that are from the larger legal research companies, they still have that possibility of hallucinating, and so you have to be obviously very careful. Here's kind of a techie thing, but biased algorithm outputs. So what does that mean? Well, AI is trained on if it's trained on a data set that's biased. For instance, if the cases that I uploaded to the system that I mentioned earlier in this presentation, if I had information that was biased in some way, not completely unbiased, because it's all the decisions of Massachusetts appeals and Supreme Judicial Court, you end up with that bias being drawn down upon by your friend, your AI system, and it can create issues of discrimination. It can create demographic issues. It can also lead to inaccurate conclusions about this and other cases. So obviously be very careful about that. Misinterpreting legal nuance, that's a really big issue, because AI does struggle. It's not that it does struggle with the complexities of legal language. And obviously wording in context makes a big difference for all of us, particularly those of us that are either litigators, or trial or trial folks, particularly in the criminal world. You really have to be careful about the wording or context that might be missed by AI. Because look, I'll give you an example. If it happens to read a particular statute here in Massachusetts, and that statute says that a person shall do something, right? As opposed to a mistaken interpretation in which somebody may do something, right? So that's the kind of nuanced mistake. I mean, if something maybe can be done as opposed to must be done, quite a different conclusion in your research and whatever you're working on. Okay, so big practice tip. These attorneys in the firm are still the most significant AI-related attorney error. I mentioned that you'll find on the internet, and even a year later, it's still pronounced. And and I have great empathy for those attorneys, but they also put themselves in a very difficult predicament, and they did so by heading out to go out west, relative to searching for new ways of doing things, and it all came crashing down on them.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy it, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos on law practice and legal marketing. See you in our next clip.